Welcome to the Data Product Management in Action podcast, created and executive produced by me, Scott Hurlman, and brought to you by Soda, your best friend in data quality and contracts tooling. We created this podcast to serve as a place for actual practitioners bringing product management practices to data, whether that is to AI and ML, data products, platforms, or everything else in data, right? And it's to dig into the nitty-gritty of product management in data, but in fun and dynamic conversations. It's not just lift and shift from software product management. We have a great set of hosts for you that are also practitioners, so they can really get into those specifics and dive deep and get you the information you want to know rather than just high level, here is what a data product is. This is about cutting through the noise of data product management to drive towards actionable insights, hence the actual podcast name, Data Product Management in Action. So sit back and enjoy another awesome conversation.
Hello, and welcome to Data Product Management in Action podcast. I'm Frannie Helforoush, and in this episode, we are joined by Lucca Kazan. Luca is a senior AI product manager, and we are going to have an interesting episode on AI product management today. A quick disclaimer that Luca is representing his own view and is not representing the view of his company. Welcome to the podcast, Luca.
Thanks, Frannie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining. Okay, would you start with introducing yourself, your background, your work, a little bit?
Yeah. So my name is Luca. I've been a product manager for the last 9 years, working closely with AI in the last 5. Right now, today, I'm open to work, so not in any specific company. And just about me, I live in Brazil, South America. I like to surf, and I like to cook as well.
Interesting. Okay, what type of data products you worked on recently?
So I'm gonna just brief about the last 3 ones. So last one, I've developed a search and personalization engine based on transformers and LLMs for the biggest food delivery app in Latin America. It increased like the EBITDA by 7 digits a year. It had great impact. Before that, I developed a facial recognition engine based on CNNs. It works on the biggest financial institutions here in Brazil. We reduced user drop-off by 83% with that. And a little before that as well, I developed a new anti-fraud engine based on neural network for the biggest food delivery app here in Brazil. It reduced fraud by 87%, and we reduced fraud loss by 80 digits a year.
Okay, very, very interesting. So all of those products can be described as AI product management. But how do you see AI product management fit into data product management territory? How do you see the relationship?
Actually, when you think AI product management, it's just a part of data product management. It's like an extension or even a tool, if you think about it. Because we have data product management. It does all the base work. It starts with data. So we build these data products. We have data that is available, that is reliable, that follows governance, that has security, planned and everything. And then we have all this data. And we can think, hey, this data has a pattern on it. It generalizes. Maybe we can build a model to get insights from it. And then we build a machine learning model, then we have AI. So AI just comes from data. One is part of the other. In an ideal scenario, we have both. We have AI product management and we have data product management. But as some companies are trying to get things rolling really fast, because of kind of the hype that we're having around AI, we are having some kind of overlaps. Sometimes we have AI product management also thinking about data reliability, how we make teams share data, how's the quality of this data, how's the security, the governance, and everything. So it's kind of overlapping, but I think it's mostly because of the hype.
Yeah, I agree. They say that your AI product is only as good as your data. So there you go. Okay. So back to AI product management and thinking about, okay, you want to have, for example, a product, newly product, one of those products that you mentioned, either the face recognition or the others. How was the discovery phase going, and how that phase was similar to or different to classic software product discovery, or even like a core data product discovery? So I just want to know, how do you do that discovery within AI framework?
When you think about it, we have the same concept behind the discovery phase, right? We start with a problem identification, market research to understand the size of the problem. We go on with feasibility analysis. And in the end, in the ideal scenario, we build a case. Hey, this is the expected impact, and this is the expected effort to go on with this initiative, this product or improvement, right? But when you look inside each of these phases, we start having a lot of differences when you're talking about AI products because of the level of uncertainty that we have around them. Let's get, for example, problem identification, right? We got to fight to keep it the same. As much as we focus, always the focus has to be on the user, the focus has to be on the problem, and less in the solution. But because of all the hype that we're having around AI, we have a lot of people rushing the solution in front of the problem. And we've been having to fight a lot to keep it like that. Let's see in the search example, we have a pressure to use natural language models, LLMs. Everybody wants to use LLMs, let's use it on search. And then when you deep dive, you understand that, hey, we don't have people using natural language in the search bar. Or we have some, but it's a very, very, very long tail. And we have to fight and say, hey, we have other problems that does not relate directly with LLMs. So let's focus on the problem and not in the solution. Another key difference in the problem identification is that we have to really dig deep into the size of the problem. Because we're going to take a lot of time to develop any solution. It normally takes longer than usual to develop an AI solution. So it's also good to take a lot of time to be sure about that problem in the scale of that problem. Let me give you an example for the facial biometric product. We have this indication, or hey, we might have a low light issue on our facial recognition model. Our model behaves badly when we have low light in the photo. That's an idea, that's an hypothesis. But to understand the problem, to measure this problem, we have like these thousands of photos going on every day in the motor, in the engine. How do we say how many of those have low lighting? You can't open all that photos and hand classify them as good lighting or low lighting. We can get a lot of people and maybe they can hand classify it just as an indication. But to actually know the size of the problem, you have to develop a model that is able to understand if a picture has good lighting or low lighting. So just in the problem identification case, just to size it, you need to develop a model that understands good lighting and bad lighting. So you need a delivery, you need a model even before you actually have the size of the problem. So there's all these challenges in the middle of the way because of the scale of it.
Okay. I just remembered that I read somewhere that they said the AI made prototyping so easy, so the validation of your hypothesis is so easy. Do you agree?
Kind of. There's a lot of ready models today. If you take like AWS or Vertex, even Azure, they do give us a lot of ready models. So you get your data and put there, and you have a quick generalization, maybe a quick model there. But you will only know if that actually works with your real data in scale, in production. And those models, a lot of times they're not ready for production at scale. So maybe you can get a quick validation instead of months. Hey, let's quick validate if this idea has somewhere to go, but not actually working in production.
Yeah, because even understanding customer problem with AI moving so fast, it should be so hard, right? Because either their problem moves also as fast, or they are not really sure what the problem is because, they just want some type of solution and it changes, rapidly. So it may be, helpful to have those prototypes ready in hand and just, like you said, just test it in a small scale. But have you had that experience that the problem keeps changing because of the rapid pace of the whole AI and hype and everything around it?
There's a lot of that when during the development of the anti-fraud engine, because the anti-fraud problem by itself is a lot of very creative, capable people trying to find ways through the engine you build. So there's this adaptations all the time, as you advance technology, fraud advances together with it, and then, hey, you have to adapt again. And as you release new technologies, new adaptations, and you need another technology on top of it. So it's this really quick pace environment where the problem itself is changing a lot.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. So back to differences and similarities between AI product management and classical software product management. How do you see the stakeholder management different or similar, or even the delivery? Either of those. How do you see the differences specifically?
There's good examples about both. I'm going to talk a little bit maybe first about delivery, as we just talked about discovery. There's this huge gray area between what is discovery and what is already delivery when you're talking about AI, right? Because let's think about the anti-fraud example. We would see there's users that came in and create thousands of accounts, of different accounts. But behind all those accounts, it's the same user. We have indications of that, email, location, all this kind of things. We kind of noticed that. But during the investigation, none of these features, none of these variables was enough to classify 1,000 accounts as just one person. And we came to the point of, hey, there's a possibility of we bringing in a new technology that's going to give us a strong device ID. So it can have the user can have 1,000 accounts, but as he's using the same device ID, we know it's the same person. But just to get that device ID, we have a deliverer on itself. You got to find a supplier for that technology. You have to implement that technology, and you have to collect data on that technology for like 5 weeks, 6 weeks of collecting device ID data. And only then you can understand if that data, it's enough to generalize the fraud and actually recognize all those accounts as one user. So there's months of development and delivery in the discovery phase, because all of that, we still don't know if it's going to work as we want as it should work. So there's this huge gray area in the delivery phase. Yet, are we already delivering, or are we still discovering? And there's a lot of uncertainty.
Interesting. Okay. So how about stakeholder management?
Cool. The stakeholder management, I believe what's being, what's like waiting more in the last years, it's the hype. There's all this demand for us to develop AI solutions, not to actually solve problems, but just to say that we have AI solution. And there's a lot of pressure. Hey, let's develop an LLM. Let's use OpenAI. Let's use Google Gemini. But for what? We don't really have a problem that's going to be solved with this. But there's a lot of pressure from the stakeholders, from the board, from the investors directly into our teams saying, hey, we got to use technology A or B. And then there's a lot of management to explain our technology A is for that. Our problem goes to another side. We should solve it some way else because it's been pressured just for the technology for itself, almost as a marketing solution, like a marketing feature more than actually solving a real world problem. And other than that, stakeholder management for AI products, it tends to be hard anyway, because AI solutions tend to take longer to develop. We can't solve stuff in a sprint. We can't deliver something in a sprint for testing. Like I was saying, just discovery takes a long time, maybe delivery. Hey, we need to test 5 models before actually coming up with something that is working. So it takes time. There's a lot of uncertainty on effort and impact, because we will discover things as they go. We have a lot of benchmarks on a model. We've seen it works in 1,000 places, but when you use it with our data in our context, it behaves a little bit different and it needs iteration. So it takes longer. And getting the stakeholders to understand, accept all this uncertainty is pretty hard sometimes.
Do you have any solution how to cope with those? How to manage those stakeholders?
Yeah, what we can try to do is think on intermediate deliveries in the meantime, Let's say we have some kind of fraud going on, a new fraud. Just the data exploration around that fraud can give us a delivery. Hey, out of a sudden we found with the data exploration a given behavior that's related to a promo code. Just that is enough. We don't even need to develop a model. We can just go on and change how that promotion works, and we already reduce fraud by a bunch. Or maybe test semi-deliveries on, hey, we got a database with 500 million faces. Let's make a model on 100 million faces first. Let's see how it behaves. Then we start scaling it, and with time we see how it behaves in scale. But just that first model with 20% of the database gives us already a good view, or we're moving forward, we're going to get there, we're going to have a good impact. So it keeps building trust on what we're building.
That is a very good advice. Thank you so much. How is your team structure look like for one of, for example, the AI product that you just mentioned?
Cool. So normally we always have like data scientists, ML engineers, backend developers, and APM in the team, right? Sometimes we have data analysts and data engineers, or sometimes those are from a central team that helps a lot of other teams. And it's been happening because normally we had data team that we don't have a lot of data teams and data experts in the company, right? So they were all together in one team, which is called the data team or the ML team. And they would go into all these other products. But now as we're growing those teams and we're giving more attention to these products, we are having dedicated people to each problem. So we're having dedicated data scientists in a given squad, dedicated machine learning engineers for a given squad to solve a given problem. And that's a great evolution. Things tend to work so much better when we don't have these isolated structures, when everybody's together in one team.
Thank you so much. I just, thought about that right now. Have you heard about the term product trio? So there's a saying that there's three main polar in product management. One is the tech lead and all the technical team, and the other is the design team, and the other is the product management team. So they are coming together to shape a product. Do you have any equivalent for that product trio in AI product management in your mind? I know you haven't thought about that before, but I'm just, thinking, because even in the data product management, it's hard because you remove the design element of it, and then you have to add more, roles to it. So do you have any 3 main groups, or even more, 4 main groups that can work best together?
Yeah. Actually, what ends up is that we have to add more. So teams get bigger, and leadership, we have more leaders inside the squad as well. So there's PM, there's the backend tech lead, which tends to be one person. And then there's a different person for the data, as some kind of data or ML tech lead, because the expertise it's kind of different. So we tend to have these 2 tech leads inside the team. And depending on the product, what ends up happening is that we do have a design head in the team as well, because we do have user experience, because we're defining behaviors. So we do need the designers together with it. They're not touching so much the user interface, but the user experience and behavior. So we do need designers around as well.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Any final suggestions or recommendation for anyone who wants to work on AI, or any interesting, takeaway that you got from all of your products that you want to, pass that information on?
For those trying to get into AI, it's very important to get closer to the technology, actually understanding how the model works, what are their limitations, what are their potential, what can they bring of new, because the technology is providing a lot that, it's opening doors, it's allowing us to do new stuff, but it also brings a lot of limitations together with it. And it's really important to know that in a deeper level than traditional product management. It's really important that you know how the model is working behind it to understand the limitations and potentials. And if you're already an AI PM or data product management, what I always say is, hey, try to get closer to traditional product management. Try to get closer to the user needs. Try to get closer to design, because we tend to go so deep, inside the technology. We can't end up get sucked into that, get lost into technology very quickly. And we got to keep focus on the user all the time. So we avoid 90% of the mistakes, keeping close to the user.
I really, really like that suggestion that you had. Thank you so much. Anything else that you want to mention?
No, I think it was pretty interesting.
Thank you so much for joining and for everything that you shared. I think people would really find it very interesting. We will mention your LinkedIn if anyone wants to contact you. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Frannie.
Okay.
Thanks for the time and for the interesting talk.
Thanks. Bye.
Right.
Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully you got some great actionable insights out of this episode. We're so excited to dig deeper into data product management and its many facets. If you want to engage more with the show, you can follow us on LinkedIn and check out Soda's website at soda.io for more related content around product management in data. And if you are a practitioner bringing product management practices to data and want to potentially be a guest, please check the show notes for a link to apply. And as always, we strongly encourage people from underrepresented groups in tech to apply. Much as I'm a handsome devil, we don't want all our guests only looking like me. So again, let's get excited for more digging into data product management in action.